is a special feature on 2021, and this is Nishant Malhotra, the sole founder of The Middle Road, a thought leader in enabling social change and impact within the global ecosystem. This podcast kickstarts the series on social impact update from The Middle Road. Do refer to the education publication which will be following this podcast. It will be published on The Middle Road at www.themiddleroad.org. First, a bit about the Middle Road platform. Inspired by the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals and keeping the model simple yet elegant, the Middle Road's mission is to make a holistic change within the world. The startup promotes themes on sustainable development, art, culture, well-being, supported by a very well-rounded and comprehensive online learning initiatives. Despite being a one-person company, the Middle Road platform has a global audience with readers and learners from across the globe, known for its intense and educative reads, insightful and informative podcasts, webinars and videos, along with education online courses. The company is a global thought leader in social impact. The startup is a refreshing change from many of its peers, youthful yet measured, enlightening yet fun, creative yet simplistic, thought-provoking, multifaceted and instructional. Within a short period, the startup has interviewed leading social change enablers across continents, posted research-focused futuristic publications on topics related to the social and development sector, artistically leading the way for others. Check out www.themiddleroad.org. This read captures some significant news from 2021, especially the reads covered on the Middle Road platform. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic. 2021 will go down as the year of the fastest vaccination rollout, yet this vaccination rollout against the coronavirus is riddled with vaccine inequality. The share of fully vaccinated people in low-income countries still hovers around 4%. Compare this to 70% fully vaccinated rate in high-income countries and 72% in upper-medium income countries, as per data shared by our World in Data as of 30 December 2021. If we take today, the cumulative cases have already exceeded 284 million worldwide, with registered deaths overtaking 5.4 million, but the actual figures would be much higher than the reported figures. The emergence of Omicron has exacerbated the problem for global recovery. Omicron is now the most dominant strain in the US and has exploded in Europe. First reported in South Africa on 24th November 2021, the new variant accounts for 73% of the cases as per the CDC report from mid-December. CDC's National Genomic Surveillance results are statistically powered to detect a variant that is circulating at 0.1% with 99% confidence and can monitor the changes over time. Now, to know more about confidence intervals, refer to the online courses. These are statistical courses on the Middle Road. Now, if you take both the World Bank and IMF, they have taken out packages to fine-tune the global asymmetries caused by the pandemic. The World Bank has committed $157 billion since the beginning of the pandemic. The IMF has proposed a $50 billion plan enabling social change and impact within the global arena. $16 trillion stimulus, the largest amount in modern history. African Development Bank and Asian Development Bank are other multilaterals that stand out for their work during the pandemic. Asian Development Bank announced a $20 billion package to support its developing countries in April 2020, and the $19 billion APVX plan initiative announced in December 2020 that offers support to its member countries for an equitable and safe rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. According to many estimates, COVID-19 crisis has caused the worst recession since World War II, with global debt standing at $296 trillion, by Q3 2021, according to the Institute of International Finance. World Bank and UNESCO defined learning poverty as children unable to work and understand a simple text by the age of 10. Important measures to understand the education sector for children. Now, based on World Bank study, 720 million primary school children, 382 million of them are learning poor. Poor learning skills are one of the most significant barriers to eradicating poverty. The COVID-19 pandemic could increase an additional 72 to 454 million into learning poverty. With prolonged school closures, learning poverty would prevail in about 70% of low and medium income countries. 2021 saw refugee crisis continue. According to UNHCR, 35,000 refugees are uprooted in Sudan. Afghanistan now faces an economic collapse. One of the major issues in 2021 was inflation. Now, inflation is one of the major concerns which is facing today. The Middle Road was one of the first publications to point out inflation risk. There's a dedicated series of tutorials on this topic. One of the poor countries were actually the worst hit because of food inflation rising due to supply disruptions. Example, sub-Saharan region. Based on the IMF article, food accounts for 40% of the region's CPI index. An increase in food prices increases inflation drastically. Food inflation was 11% from April this year till October. High oil prices, supply disruption due to the pandemic, export restrictions by countries and stockpiling are the reasons that contributed to an increase in food prices. Now, according to IMF, the percentage of undernourished people is by 20% in 2020. So just to give you a glimpse of how inflation has moved during the time of the pandemic. We talk about sustainable finance. This is one of the key topics and how this sector has evolved in 2021. Climate change and action is a huge global issue, and sustainable finance is one of the enablers within this segment. In 2021, the European Union, a leader in implementing policies for a sustainable economy, designated a corpus of Euro 100 billion under multi-annual financial framework from 2021 to 2027 and next generation EU for biodiversity projects. As global urbanization increases about 50%, humanity is fast losing its touch with Mother Nature. The social costs associated with loss of biodiversity ecosystem are difficult to measure. The sustainable debt is expected to be about $1.5 trillion in 2021 based on Institute of International Finance. Sustainable bonds, which are a part of sustainable debt, stood just shy of $1 trillion mark. According to ING, in 2021, approximately $994 billion of bonds were issued in all currencies, where the use of proceeds was linked to green, social, sustainable and SDG frameworks. Bonds Initiative, a leading non-profit, estimates green bonds insurance will be about $1 trillion in annual insurance alone by 2023. The green bond market remains the most dominant within this segment. A key innovative feature is emerging in recent times is SDG linked bond. Now, transition bonds are another class of debt instruments used to finance decarbonization among carbon emitting industries. The SARS-CoV-2 has enhanced the issuance of social bonds as a vehicle to deliver social change and impact for the underserved and less privileged section of the society. Asian Development Bank estimates that Asia and Pacific will need to invest $1.7 trillion per year to support climate and sustainable development goals. The example, Enel, a European multinational, is a pioneer in issuing SDG-linked bonds with coupon rates linked to sustainable development goals. Enel established a sustainability-linked financing framework to aid issuance of sustainability-linked financial instruments for its Euro commercial program. Financing instrument targets Sustainable Development Goal 7 on affordable and clean energy. Now, these bonds have a step-up coupon feature, that is, they'll pay interest they'll have to pay a penalty for missing the key performance indicator mapped to coupon rate. Whenever we are talking about sustainable development sector, the country that comes to my mind is Denmark, which is a champion of implementing some of the best practices. Their example of promoting cycling as a mode of transport, which is where they stand out. If you compare another country, Singapore's 2030 Green Plan, it's an inspiration for thought leadership within the sustainable development sector. The Middle Road envisions Singapore's 2030 Green Plan to be a bellwether effort compared to Finland or better, even Nordic countries, holistic foray in bettering K-12 education globally. The little Asian giant, Singapore plans to invest 50% more, that is 200 hectares of land, on nature parks as a part of its biodiversity drive. The fact that every household will live within 10 meters of walk to a park has numerous positive externalities. Example, healthier life, lower healthcare costs, better well-being, more productivity at work, etc. The country is increasingly deploying circular economy solutions and by 2030 expects to reduce waste to landfills by 30%. Many groundbreaking initiatives like expanding the cycling network to 1,320 kilometers, the share of public transport to 75% by 2030 can serve as a beacon for other countries in implementing and understanding impact evaluation to foster a greener tomorrow. COP26 now was held in 2021 and we need to look a bit on this aspect. The 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, which is Conference of Parties, took place in Glasgow in 2021. The conference committed to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. Understanding the impact of climate change would be much lower at these levels compared to the 2 degrees centigrade. At COP26, leaders from more than 120 countries representing about 90% of the world's forests pledged to halt and reverse deforestation by 2030. The $100 billion climate finance contribution pledged every year at COP9, which was held at Copenhagen in Denmark, is very small compared to the already discussed 5.2 trillion post-tax subsidies, which are roughly around 0.37% of global GDP based on IMF estimates. The coming together of more than 500 global financial services firms to commit about $130 trillion, which is roughly 40% of world's financial assets for climate change that are aligned to the Paris Agreement and to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrades, helps to override the financial gap which we have discussed in implementing Sustainable Development Goals per year. 2026 emphasized collaboration and the importance of civic societies in limiting loss due to climate change and promoting the Paris Agreement through various actors, example, indigenous people and local people, for effective implementation of climate change agenda. We'll come to science and technology. In 2021, the United States and China landed a rover on Mars, a fantastic achievement in the realms of space exploration. Here today I'll be featuring UNESCO. UNESCO published a leading publication that discusses the interaction of science and its transition towards a greener, digitally connected society along with public policy. So in the last few years, the world has made critical progress as digitalization and technology penetrates our lives. UNESCO size report, The Race Against Time for Smart Development, tries to address these questions. The framework of 17 Sustainable Development Goals is a critical enabler for social change and impact, catalyzing far-reaching synergies between multiple actors within the global arena. UNESCO report targets policymakers, governmental and non-governmental entities, academicians, media and other actors to understand the pathways of different geographical regions in their journey for a better network tomorrow. Now, these pathways include asymmetries and distortions leading to prevailing inequalities within the global ecosystem. For example, 80% of the countries covered spend less than 1% of their GDP on research and development. A sound R&D is the backbone of a more responsive and just society, but only 32 countries raised their research spending by 0.1% of GDP or more between 2014 and 2018. As technology sophistication increases over time, it leads to more well-being and economic growth. A focus on R&D, quality education, and equitable healthcare are three pillars that helps for an equitable society. These initiatives drive gender equality, reduce the unemployment rate, and increase productivity over the long run. When we talk about gender equality, it is one of the key areas wherein a lot of progress has been made in many countries. Globally, women have achieved a parity which is about 45 to 55% at bachelor's and master's level of study and 44% at PhD level. But the parity reduces as women pursue their careers. Women are also gaining in research as a profession. Women researchers were 1/3, which is about 33% of all researchers in 2018, up from 28.4% in 2013. So there's been a jump here. 2021 will also go down in history books as the year scientists discovered the first millipede in the world with 1,306 legs in Australia. It's a soft yet significant discovery. We talk about biodiversity. Do you know, according to the World Bank, 1 million of the present 8 million animals and plant species are facing extinction, which we have to keep in mind. Finally, we come to one of the most important sections from the Middle Road Person of the Year 2021. This time the theme is Art of Subtlety. The Middle Road awarded Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka as Person of the Year for their tremendous contribution in defining the art of subtlety, that stands for a metaphor for measuring substance and character, stand for personal values which are very important. They remind the characters of Alison O'Donnell's role in Shetland, a very highly recommended series from the Middle Road, or Craig Mulligan's role in Collateral, which exemplifies this attribute. As social upheaval continues in many parts of the world, the art of subtlety emerged as the central tenet of 2021. This was the first podcast on social impact by Nishant Malhotra from the Middle Road. I hope you liked it. Thank you.